Christian Horner has reportedly eyed a replacement for Max Verstappen amid talks that there's nobody above the team and no individual should act like he has influence over the team's orders. But with everyone in Red Bull calling for peace, will the Brit actually chase this scenario through after all? Jos Verstappen has been more than adamant that while Horner remains the team principal of Red Bull, there will be unrest in the team. But with the tie-backed side standing firmly behind Horner, will he actually move to a future without Verstappen? And more importantly, how is this bad news for Perez, who could go down as collateral damage in this situation? It's safe to say that the internal battle between Christian Horner and Red Bull has not gone the way that the Austrian side of the team would want it to, with Horner not being found guilty of the accusations that the female employee has accused him of. Nonetheless, the topic of this video is a bit different, and we're going to focus on another situation that's developed from this origin story of Horner, and that is the potential replacement of Max Verstappen. The Dutchman said loudly and very clearly that if Helmut Marko departs the team, which is a realistic scenario considering the power shift that's happening in Red Bull, then we're very likely to see him gone as well. This has been interpreted as a direct threat to Red Bull, mostly because Verstappen, who won 3 championships with Red Bull and is on pace to win the 4th one in 2024, has been massively connected to the success that the team had with him. But according to Horner, no man or driver is above the team, and the Brit is firmly convinced that if you put any of the superstar drivers in that car, they would be achieving more or less the same results as Verstappen. Maybe not in the same dominant fashion as the Dutchman, but they'd get the job done. That's why Horner has reportedly moved towards replacing the current duo of drivers in Red Bull, and while this is just a rumour right now and we're not reporting on it as something official, it has been circulating from F1 insiders in the paddock, as the general belief is that the 50-year-old Brit has set his eyes on 2 very strong and fast drivers on the grid from 2025 onwards, Piastri and Albon. Of course, a very important obstacle to state here is that both Albon and Piastri are under contract with their respective teams for 2025, but the fact that Albon is Red Bull bound and is on a loan does help the situation of the Austrian team a bit. Yes, Mercedes would be pursuing his signature as a replacement for Hamilton if Kimi Antonelli doesn't prove to be the man for the job after just 1 season in F2, and Alonso decides to either retire or continue his collaboration with Aston Martin. But the fact that Albon has drawn such high interest from teams like Red Bull and Mercedes goes to speak about his values as an F1 driver. This would mean that Red Bull would bring back the relationship they had with the Thai-based driver that started in the second half of the 2019 season when he replaced Gasly, and ended along with the 2020 season when he was replaced with the veteran Perez. However, the results that Albon has shown in Williams has definitely proven that he has what it takes in order to be competitive, win races and potentially even win championships with the current outlet of Red Bull. And given the fact that Horner labels himself as the architect of success in Red Bull in the past couple of years, if this is his wish, then there are very few forces that could stop him from achieving it. But while Albon would be the perfect replacement for Verstappen if all hell breaks loose and the relationship between the Dutchman and the Brit can't be repaired, which is probably likely to be the scenario given all of the latest comments made by Jos Verstappen, it's safe to assume that Verstappen would opt for a drive in Mercedes along with Helmut Marko, something that Mercedes have opened up about in a positive manner. However, not many people understand why Perez would be the collateral damage that Horner plans to get rid of along with Verstappen, even though the Mexican driver did nothing wrong but support him throughout all of the claims being made against the Brit. Still, if you have the opportunity to sign a driver like Oscar Piastri, who's been labelled the second most wanted driver by Christian Horner for 2025, then I guess this is too sweet of an opportunity to miss. Having a young and powerful duo of drivers you could completely control, and a duo who would be battling it out on the track in the newly regulated era from 2026 onwards, where the situation could be a bit hairier for Red Bull, goes directly in Horner's favour. The last thing that the Brit would want is to have a driver who thinks he could give the commands left and right in the team just because he went on to win championships with a car that has been constructed by thousands of engineers back in the factory. Not to take away anything from Verstappen's massive talent to adapt to any ride given to him, but the moment you think you're bigger than the team is probably the moment your career is taking a downhill step, and Horner recognises that. Another very interesting scenario is the fact that Albon comes from Thailand and of course has a close relationship with the majority stakeholder of Red Bull, Charlam Yavida, who has gone on to share his support for Horner in the meeting he had with the Austrian side in Dubai a couple of days ago. Even though reports suggested that Charlam might have strayed further away from Horner after all of the latest scandals. But the stance of the Brit is clear. No man should feel like he would be bringing all of the choices into the team, and this has been said loud and clear in Monaco 2022 and has been repeated in this saga yet again. So when talking about Verstappen's departure from 2025 onwards, Horner seemed pretty unfazed by it, further adding, "You can never say no about Verstappen leaving, but if a driver doesn't want to be somewhere, then they'll just go somewhere else. But I can't see any reason why anybody would want to step out of this team. I think he's got great support around him and he's doing a wonderful job with a great car. Red Bull is one team and nobody is bigger than a team. This team compromises across the different entities over 1,400 people, and everybody has a role to play, and that's from the very bottom to the very top." It seems like Verstappen has changed his direction as well, and after saying that he would be likely to leave if Marko is no longer part of Red Bull, he went on to call for internal peace in Red Bull and focus on what's important, winning races and championships now that they have zero to no competition at all on the grid. Yet damage has been done left and right by his father Jos, who is still adamant that if Horner remains in this position, there could be huge consequences for how the entire team behaves, something that has been denied by a Red Bull spokesperson who added there's literally no tension in the team and nobody is feeling threatened by the presence of Christian Horner. When talking about this matter, as well as the female employee in question who basically started off all of the ruffling and is now suspended by Red Bull, likely as a consequence of her actions, Jos Verstappen went on to say, "I sympathise with the woman with all that she went through, but we will see what happens. I think it's too late for Christian to say, 'Leave me alone,' but he has the support of the Thai owner, so I think he will stay for the rest of the season. I said it would be bad if he stayed. It really isn't good for the team, this whole situation." With this in mind, Horner's case is to focus on Albon and Piastri as the two possible replacements for Max and Perez. And although you would think this is a crazy scenario that has 0% chance of happening, it's actually not really that far-fetched of a scenario, considering the fact that Verstappen won't receive what he wants, and that is having Horner out of the team anytime soon. But with both Piastri and Albon being under contract in 2025, do you think they'll pass on this opportunity, or do you think that they would have both their hands on the Red Bull contracts if offered to them? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.